Kia ora, I'm Amanda Millar and welcome to Am and Courageous Conversations, a podcast that digs into the lives of those who are prepared to live courageously, no matter the cost. Dame Theresa Gattung.
I'm not.
I like calling you Dame Theresa Gattung because you should be.
Or at least I'm not yet anyway.
Well, it is. It's like that is who I think about, and it's like I look at all these other people appointed to this role. But Theresa Gattung, you are a dame to us all. You are a goddess. You are an inspiration to so many people, particularly women and girls.
Well, thank you, Amanda. I do get that feedback quite a lot.
Yeah, well, good on you. So right now, I'm not even going to go through the list of all the things that you are and you have been. You just are this Energizer bunny that keeps on keeping on to try and make a difference for women and girls, right?
I do, and I feel like this is a great time in my life because essentially everything that I do is in the nature of being a volunteer. I choose to do everything that I'm doing. And once you've been going a few decades and you choose to live in New Zealand, I've always been surrounded by a loving family. I work with, my sister Angela Gattung in the foundation. I spend a lot of time with all three of my sisters and my mum at Waihi Beach, which is my tuaranga waiwai. But everything that I do, I'm surrounded by wonderful people. Sarah and James Robinson and Tend, my business partners from my food back, such good friends. The meeting I've just had, a great mate, Keith Mitchell, a company that I'm invested in with him. And so Global Woman, Agnes Naira, I really love working with a team and then making things happen. That is sort of my superpower. And I want to keep doing that. And I feel like so much healthier than I was a few years ago, so much more able to, joyfully manage quite a lot of things. And yeah, I really like being generative and making things happen. I don't sort of understand people and I don't resonate with people whose lives become smaller. I know in your 80s that probably does happen. But in the 60s, it's like 50s and 60s, it's like women got wisdom, they've got energy. And I just feel absolute desire every day I get up wanting to generate more outcomes, better outcomes, make a difference. And sometimes that's within an institution and sometimes I just make it up. I mean, a good example this year was my very good friend Jenny Rudd and I. She's an entrepreneur from Mount Maunganui. We'd started to get very frustrated about what we thought were investment funds pretending to back female founders but not really doing so. And my experience with some of the women that I had invested with raising, in successful companies, already global, but really struggling as female founders, was that it's still harder as a woman to get funded. So we said, let's get some data together. So over a period of months, funded by me and also by Craig's and Global Women. So, you always need allies. Male allies have a very important role in this. She got all the data together and then we did this most wonderful presentation, helped with Deb Peed, PR Maestro in New Zealand. And it's had such a reverberation. So now when I get on the phone with a male VC person, instead of shying away from the topic, they want to show me their data. Like it's really making a big difference. And that's something that will endure for all the women coming through, all the girls coming through and into future generations.
So you are... This is quite scary to think that Theresa Gattung could be even more focused, even more powerful, even more action focused. It's like there's a lot that you're still giving.
Yeah, well, a lot of this came from lockdown. So I did lockdown at Waihi Beach. I actually was there. I didn't, do a trip down the dash from Auckland because my father was diagnosed with bowel cancer that week before lockdown. So I was at the beach. And that did give me time to reflect on things. And I thought, well, how can I make a big difference? And that was when I decided that I'd approach Auckland University about setting up a Centre for Women Entrepreneurship, which I would fund the professor of, Christine Woods, got that role and she's fantastic, and start teaching courses on entrepreneurship.
For women.
For women. So it's in the business school. But women who are doing arts or science can also enrol in the undergraduate course. Because we're all going to be entrepreneurs at some point in our life. This is a life skill. It's not just a business thing. So I did that, and that's when I had the idea to set up the Gattung Foundation with my sister. I had to wait till she was ready because she'd set up a charity in South Auckland, Ko Tuatua Ki Papakura. And I'd always been quite generous giving money to women's causes and animal causes since my first paycheck at 21. I believe that I've become wealthy because I've always seen money as inflow, and I've always never seen it as a scarce stock. And I think a lot of Kiwis, particularly a lot of women, have a lot of fear around money. They think they're not going to have enough. What they have, they could lose. And my father gave me this, and all of us, this great attitude to money, which is there's enough for all of us. It is not a win-lose game where if they have more, you have less, or you have more, they have less. You can always create more. There are many ways. One of my favourite mottos are, there are 7 ways to do anything. And sometimes when I'm stuck with a problem, I ring my assistant, Chris Woodward, who's also my chief advisor, and I say, I can only think of 3 ways to handle this. Before I decide, tell me the other 4 ways. Like, there's always many ways to do anything. So the Gattung Foundation really came out of my sisters and my love for supporting animals. We're a very animal-mad family. And I was looking at the little dog out there, your little dog, because I had 3 elderly cats, and one by one they've all died off.
And remember your cats?
Yes, my cats. So now I have no cats, and I'm going backwards and forwards between my Auckland home and my Bay of Plenty home, and I'm wondering how I'm going to manage that because I feel sad without an animal in the house. So we all love animals, our family, and I've always supported women's organisations. And so with the Gattung Foundation, it isn't just giving away money, it's co-designing programs together that didn't exist before to bring together the inspiration that I have when I speak, but also my sister's school. She was a principal for many years, and she's a natural teacher, and she's a connector. So we're not precious. So we do some things that support things that are already existing, like we support the Middlemore Foundation, we support the First Foundation. We support girls from our old school in Rotorua who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to go on to university, for example. But we basically pretty much only support girls and women. When I get challenged about that, which I sometimes do, I say, look, there's plenty of wealthy men and there's plenty of male philanthropists. Go to them. We support girls.
And I'm sure it'll be the men who are challenging you, right?
No, actually, sometimes it's women.
Okay.
Sometimes it's women.
Yeah.
The last person who challenged me was a Pacifica woman. So
the Gattung Foundation. Because a lot of the focus, I want to talk into this. This is really important. A lot of the focus is on Māori and Pacifica.
It is because our focus is supporting women and girls who don't have the opportunities that we had. And in particular, the sweet spot that we're focused on because of my background and Angela's background is that transition between school and work or school and university. We do some things that support boys and girls, as it turns out, and we do things that support women further along. So let me give you an example of a few programs in the Gattung Foundation. So one program that we're doing is on the East Coast, and we started with 1 kura, and we now have 8 kura.
Amazing.
And this is girls who are in immersion te reo. So they're learning in Māori, and we are funding them to be taught STEM and robotics, provide the equipment, provide the training, provide their travel to the national champs. So last year they came to the champs in Lower Hutt. They didn't win, but they got the judges award. And so why we're doing this? Well, obviously it's important for those girls, but for me it's more than that. New Zealand is getting browner and it's getting younger. Unless we are able to harness all the talent of everyone who lives here, we will not create a prosperous country. So can you imagine girls from one of the most deprived parts of New Zealand standing in their own power, feeling safe in their own heritage because they speak their language, they're part of Te Ao Māori is natural to them, but top of the game in robotics? Can you imagine how that might change the country? And of course, there's no reason why those 8 kura couldn't be 20 or 30. It could go beyond the East Coast, but we work with a coordinator who's passionate about it. You need someone local to work with who's passionate about it as well.
So tell me, how amazing to watch those young women at the competition. Tell me what it's like. What do you see in terms of the transformation within
well,
them?
It's my sister Angela who does most of the mahi in the foundation. So she went to the East Coast recently and spent a couple of days with them, and sent me back, but sent stuff back to me. But we are having a foundation dinner, our 1 year anniversary, in a couple of weeks, and Shannon, who's the coordinator, will be speaking at that because I want her to show everyone that it's possible. So we co-design things. We don't go, oh, well, we do this or we do that. We're quite clear on our areas of focus as laid out on our website. But within that, we're very open to co-design. So Angela was approached about this, and then she's co-designed it with Shannon.
So that is the thing. People could look at it and go, a couple of white, middle-aged women inflicting or doing their bit for the community.
Yeah.
Not at all.
There is absolutely no saviour complex around the Gattung Foundation. Communities know what they need. It doesn't matter what community you're talking about. I mean, a different example, the SPCA. We went to the SPCA and we said, we really want to help. What is your greatest need? And they said, actually, it's a truck, a van, a properly equipped van for the far north. Because it's the one up there is travelling hundreds of thousands of kilometres, another deprived region, so many animals needing support, or etc. And so we said, fine. So we did that.
Brilliant.
And that's a community. The SPCA is a community, and that was their greatest need.
The thing is, though, there are huge issues that you're putting yourself forward to help facilitate change.
Yes.
We looked at, you've got At the Table, which is reducing inequality by lifting the voices of Māori in Pacifica. You've got Here Together, growing stronger families within supportive communities. And you've got Cycle Breakers. These are just 3 of the 5.
Yeah.
Relieving and reversing poverty. How can one foundation attack these really crippling social issues that we've got right now?
Well, we don't have to just be one foundation. We are really open to working with other bigger foundations. We're open. I've already been able to attract some of my mates to co-fund. You know, it's like it's a network effect. You can inspire other people. You start. You always just have to start, and then things get bigger and bigger. Say a good example of that would be another program we're running, which is about inspiring Māori and Pacifica girls. And the issue there is that you can't be what you can't see. And so my sister Angela worked in the Papakura community for many years, about 5 years. You know, these are some children who never get to see the sea. You know, they live in Auckland. And so we approached Tupitoa, who have a great organisation. They were a spin-off from Global Women, and they put Māori Pacifica graduates, they pair them into some of New Zealand's corporates. Well, Angela's connected with a lot of the principals in Auckland. So we said, why don't we create a program that actually reaches into girls in their final year of school? Because a lot of them aren't even going to university. So Tupitoa is taking them from university, approaching them at university, coaching them, helping them, get them into jobs. But what about all the ones that fall out? They don't even get to university. And so we just started small. We just started with one group, 10 girls each from 3 different schools. All the girls are from South Auckland, but one of the schools was Auckland Girls Grammar. So those girls are bussing in from South Auckland to Central Auckland each day. So 30 girls. And it was a day I spoke at that. But I think I'm somewhat relatable, but apart from being white, it's hard to imagine me as, 18. And so, the program was designed by Tupitoa. It's very well designed. So it had a Māori woman in her late 20s talking, and, she'd gone to university, then she'd changed course. So she can talk about, look, you don't have to be afraid. You can go, you can fail, you can change, you can, it's like you get many options in life. So then we said, we're just going to do this in the South Auckland, we'll just focus. Then we got schools from West Auckland saying, well, we'd like to go. Then we got schools from rural Auckland saying, we'd like to go. So the second time around, we had West Auckland, we had rural. And then we did it again, and this time a teacher came up to me, because they all come with a teacher, and she said, well, this is the second time we've been part of this program. And she said, last time we brought our 10 girls, and only one of them was intending to go to university. And she said, in the end, all of them except one went to university. And I said, just from this one-day program. And she said, just from this one-day program.
Wow. That's how many in total?
Well, we've done many now.
No, but I mean, that's from the school, probably about 10 girls
Yes,
at
that's
least.
20 girls from that school now.
Wow.
Yeah. And can you imagine that's now, it's not just those girls' future, it's those girls role modelling it for their sisters and the other girls at that school. And another teacher, I asked at a different school, so we've had Auckland Girls Grammar, Manurewa High, Papakura High, Edgewater, Rosehill. We've had many different schools. You know, one teacher I said, how do you decide who to bring? And she gave the most brilliant answer, because we don't decide, they decide. She said, and all these girls are from, you know, what would have been low decile schools, even though they don't have that now. She said, some girls are always going to make it. They have their own determination, they have family support, they're going to be ducks, they're going to make it. She said, we didn't bring them. We brought the girls at the next level who've got the potential, but they need a boost. They need to be inspired, particularly some of the ones who are in Young Enterprise Scheme, because they're already showing that they're entrepreneurial. And I talk about that, you know, potentially not being a doctor or a lawyer, going to work for an entrepreneur, being entrepreneurial. And so she said, we take the girls who've got the potential but might not get there. And that's I mean, to Andrew and I, that's like music to our ears. So I can't give you the data. We've already been doing this for 18 months, but I can't give the data that says this is the return on investment of this social dollar. But I can just tell you, I went to a talk at Auckland Girls Grammar when I introduced Barack Obama's half-sister to speak at their school assembly. And that was amazing.
Wow.
That was amazing. Anyway, that teacher came up to me and she said, are you going to do it again soon? So when the teachers who are very overwhelmed say to you, we would like to do it again, you know that it's working. So I'm like, we don't do impact in the way that some charities would have everyone fill out forms, and we assess the programs. We go where the energy is. Another program we're working on at the moment in Papakura, this is with Te Puna Kokiri and Ministry for Women, is recovering girls lost in COVID. You know, a lot of girls from that community didn't finish their last couple of years of schooling and just sort of disappeared. Setting them up with a mentor, getting them going again. It's like recovery. So we do recovery things. We do inspiring things. We support other organisations. We do other things as well, but that's an example of a few programs.
Theresa, this is awesome, but it's mind-boggling. This is only just one small arm of your business and your world. It is astonishing what you're achieving. Well done, you. And what an amazing feeling that must give you.
It's an amazing feeling. In fact, we're just working on our 1 year. We've been going about 15 months, but we officially launched a year ago. We're working on our 1 year anniversary to compile it, to put it all together and to produce it. Beautiful. So that we can show it to potential donors and that we can have a record of, I mean, when you see the graphic that the SPCA gave us of how many kilometres that truck has done and where it's gone, and the ambulance we provided for the Western Bay of Plenty, because my father was in an ambulance all the time and there's really long delays. And that ambulance, its coverage, and that's inside like 9 months. It's like when you do that, you get a deep sense of satisfaction.
Nice. So, Theresa, I mean, this is about courageous conversations. But the thing about you is that it's almost like courage is a non-issue. Is that something that ever comes into your thinking? Is there ever a moment where you go, where am I at with this? Because all of this feels like it's just an intrinsic, intuitive response. It's like you've got it all going on.
I'm pretty courageous. You know, when I took on the chair of Global Women, and, you know, that was difficult at the end of COVID because we hadn't been able to run programs, so the finances weren't as healthy as they had been. And I just said, that's okay. Agnes and I will start contacting potential new partners and we'll get new partners in. And some people were sceptical. It's like, well, that's going to be really hard. And a lot of partners owed back pay. I said, we'll get that. And we did. And I just don't allow myself to have any crack in the intent that I won't. So I drew up a list, and say there was a dozen on the list. I think I probably got 9 of them as partners and 3 said no, but so what? By then I created another list, you know, and you just, they don't know you're making it up. They don't know they don't think you got any doubt. And so if you just believe what you're doing and you totally just keep going, eventually you know the next stage. I mean, in Wellington, raising money for the fever hospital. You remember how terrible that building was? And it was the lowest ranked project on the Wellington Council's list. And it became their poster child because Margaret Dukas, my dear friend who died a few years ago, and I just basically said, let's fundraise and let's have a dinner and let's, and we did. It took several years, but we got the several million we needed to turn that into the new animal centre.
Wow. A huge amount of contribution you've made to New Zealand. Does it ever seem too impossible or too large in terms of the scope of what you've got to do?
No. I think New Zealand is both big enough and small enough. It's small enough that I'm connected to a lot of people, and anyone who has hit 60 and been in public life is. And then it's small enough to make an impact. I could pretty much get to, almost any politician. It's like if I needed to. But I do think sometimes we think too much about it's got to be legislative change. With this stuff around gender investment gap, the point is it doesn't need any legislative change. It just needs VC firms to do things differently, to count what they're doing properly, to have more women on their investment committees, to have more women on their boards.
But how do you change those venture capital companies in terms of what because there's entrenched thinking and it's still taking so much time and so many female entrepreneurs aren't getting the service and the support they need.
But it's starting. Today Jenny and I got an email from NZTE. They're like, what more can we do? She's just come back from a week in Melbourne because Silicon Valley is about to pass a law requiring gender to be part of the VC firms reporting. Now, she went to Melbourne to talk with Australian women and a couple of them from California. How could we all do that together? So New Zealand can lead the world. I mean, I do occasionally. I mean, I'm human, so very occasionally I can have a doubt. Like just before Jenny and I did that presentation at the ANZ to, all these people, I was like, we're not data scientists. We've worked really hard at this. We've checked and but it's like someone might say, well, who are you to do this? But it didn't happen because we really believe we've got great experience and people in the room resonate with truths ring true. People in the room resonate and go, yes, well, that's my experience. So, no, I don't have doubt very often. And if I do, I just, reset myself and then I just, do it a different way, keep going a different way.
Brilliant. But what about in terms of where do you think your drive or commitment comes from?
Well, first of all, loving happy family. There's a lot of data that shows if you get a great start in life, you have resilience and et cetera. Now, of course, if you don't, it's not too late because you build your own tribe, right? So I think it comes from that. But also my personality. I'm somewhat obsessive and quite determined. I'm very impatient in the short term with all sorts of small things, but on big things I can be determined over quite a long period of time. And I also like to be, my brain is going all the time, even in my year of burnout, I'll be laying in bed, physically not able to leave my bedroom, but my brain is thinking of all these things, create all these new things I could be creating or doing. And I go, well, I'm just having a rest year at the moment. So I think I've got quite an active brain.
Definitely. You think? We know. So let's talk about that burnout because that's a big thing and it's hit you twice, right?
Yes, once in my mid-20s and once in my mid-50s, so I'm a slow learner, yeah.
So what does that tell you about you?
That I...
Other than you're a slow learner.
I don't listen to... I didn't. I think I'm better now. Don't naturally listen to my body enough. I'm very good on sleep. You know how if you go to a spa now, it used to be they woke you up at 5 o'clock to do boot camp and now they say, sleep is number one and get up when you feel like it. And I've known that forever. Like I was reading the other night, both Chris Hipkins and Christopher Luxon have said on this campaign trail, 5 or 6 hours sleep a night and I'm good. I'm like, one night of that and I'm catatonic. 2 nights of that and I'd be, out of it. So I need 8 hours sleep a night. And also, it can't be any 8 hours. It has to be before 10 o'clock.
Nice.
So I build my life around that. I just don't do late night things. I've been known to get up at 9:30 and leave a dinner when it's not ended because I'm not a half an hour drive home. Like, that's it for me. So sleep is really important. But apart from that, I push myself, and that's been a problem. Yeah.
So let's go back to when you were CEO of Telecom, because so many people remember that part of your life. In your 20s, though, you had the burnout, which was before that.
That was because I didn't have burnout during my time at Telecom or at the end of it. I had burnout in my mid-20s and then at my mid-50s after we'd sold down my food bag and done that deal. And also after my best friend had died. I think that was part of it. So in my mid-20s, I'd been studying. I'd done a honors business degree, and then I'd gone straight to working at TVNZ while doing a full-time law course. That is when I got burnout, towards the end of that full-time law course. I did have the sense not to, they offered me the second to do honours and I said no. So I did have the sense not to do honours. But a full-time law load in Wellington, taught Socratic method where you had to read the cases. You couldn't just, rock up to lectures. And a full-time job. That, and wanting to, get A's in my law degree like I had got in my business degree, putting that pressure on myself. No one else is putting that pressure on me. And do really well at my job because within about 15 months I had staff and I loved it. I loved having a team. So I just put pressure on myself and eventually I had a lot of pain, which was effectively exhaustion.
And then, of course, I guess that was a pivotal time. And then there was the Telecom, the end of Telecom, which you talk about openly, you were bereft.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the personal impact of that on your life.
Yeah. So after the first burnout in my mid-20s, that's when I started exercising every day, swimming every morning, and cut out alcohol. I've never drunk since then, and cut out caffeine. I don't have caffeine. I just have 1 decaf a day. So those things, and got regular massage. So those things really became part of my wellness thing. And without that, I never would have become CEO and survived as CEO. But the end of Telecom was stressful being first female CEO. And I looked today, and I'm very much an admirer of Antonia Watson, who's not just the CEO of ANZ, but the co-chair of Champions for Change, Partners of Global Women. And I very much admire the way that she talks about menopause, and in fact, openly. And we're having a Global Women Menopause event in World Menopause Day, October 18th, coming up. But I went through menopause while I was CEO of Telecom. I went through menopause early, and you would not have got me. I would never have, the word would never have come out of my mouth.
No, it was taboo.
It would have been taboo for a female CEO to say, well, actually, I'm going through menopause. It would have been like, And so it's hard to remember because there still aren't enough female CEOs, but the environment has shifted. When it was just me and Anne Sherry. Do you remember? It was just me and Anne Sherry for a long time. And it was Helen Clark and Jenny. And there was a long gap to Jacinda, to the next female Prime Minister. There are a generation of girls who grew up not thinking I can be Prime Minister. And female CEOs, it's still harder to get there. There's a few more female chairs now than in my time. And, of course, the Champions 40-40-20, 40% women on boards, 40% men and 20% whatever works. And in the exec team, that's made quite a difference at the top end of town in New Zealand. So the environment to support gender diversity is a lot better than it was 20 years ago, but it's still harder to be a female CEO.
And if we're still talking about the climate and context of being a female CEO, if you look at the whole experience that Jacinda Ardern has, then here is a woman who, for all intents and purposes, suffered burnout, but is now saying, no, it wasn't burnout.
Yeah.
So what does that say to the rest of us out there that constantly put ourselves under that pressure?
I saw that yesterday and I thought, well, yes, there is a distinction between not enough left in the tank and burnout. So it's fair enough she's making that distinction, but one leads to the other quite quickly and women often don't know. So she realised it and said, right, I'm done. Often we don't. I didn't. I was like, I can keep going. Interestingly, Amanda, at my first media conference when I was announced as CEO, I was 37, same age as Jacinda becoming Prime Minister, and I was asked if I was going to have children. So same question, like, well, how many years later was that? That was 99.
Yeah.
So that was 18 years later. Nothing had changed in that 18 years.
Does that depress you when clearly we just haven't moved on, that we're still asking those ridiculous questions?
You know what? It doesn't depress me as much. I'll tell you what makes me saddest at the moment is reading about the girls in Afghanistan. So Angela and I, one of the charities we support is Amnesty International. And this year we did match funding. So we gave them 20 grand, which got matched by, they ended up with over 100 grand from our one match donation, which is fantastic. But really, that is what really upsets me more than anything now, is like there was a generation of girls who had hope who are now really just sort of dying. And so I never feel depressed about New Zealand because I feel I can make a difference. I feel there's a lot of women working to make a difference. I feel like there has been a difference in my lifetime. So in New Zealand, for women and girls, it's got better in my lifetime. But for across the world, I'm less sure. I look at the rollback of reproductive freedoms in the US.
Yeah.
That is shocking.
Isn't it?
So I worry that I might die with the world for girls and women being worse than in 1962, but I don't feel like that for New Zealand.
That's interesting. So the cost, though, for you.
Yes.
I mean, obviously burnout, but
Yes.
your life, all this energy that you're giving to others,
Yeah.
whether it be entrepreneurs or underprivileged or
Yes.
whoever it is you want to help.
Yeah.
What's the cost been to you?
Well, the first cost has been health because, I lived quite a male life, right? I had a happy partnership with John Savage for over 20 years. So he was a great supporter and he did the cooking and I was working all the time, etc. So I had that sort of help at home that most men get, but a lot of women don't.
He was your wife, in
Yes,
effect.
well, he was my partner and he was doing more than his fair share of the domestic load. It'd be a better way to put it. But I didn't want children, he didn't want children. And one of the reasons for that is I couldn't have coped because I need like unbroken 8 hours sleep. I knew I couldn't have coped. But I led a male life. And so when I collapsed in 2018 and they did all these heart tests, they said, oh, you've got coronary artery disease. You've got lots of plaque in your arteries. And remember, I'd never drunk alcohol. That was stress, the stress of the corporate life. It wasn't just Telecom. It was actually getting to Telecom. It was actually, actually making it to the top and then staying there. And then, as you mentioned before, the denouement of that was very difficult. And so I had a very difficult 4 years because John and I separated, Telecom ended, I had a leaky building in my Wellington apartment. I had no income coming in. I was exhausted, but not burnt out. But I needed a break. So that was quite a difficult period. It took me a little while to get going again.
And was that the hardest period in your life, do you reckon?
That's been the hardest period in my life because although my life wasn't at risk then, and it might well have been at risk in 2018 when I, collapsed a couple of times, I was able by that time just to get off some boards, just to take a complete rest and be cared for. So that was a difficult year. 2018 was a very difficult year, but the most difficult period was that 2006, 2007 period.
And what brought you out of that period?
Well, my best friend Margaret was a great cook, and so she would cook for me after John had left. But we went overseas. We had some lovely trips overseas, and she took me up to the SPCA, and I saw in the outdoor aviaries, they'd cleared the birds, of course. They had the plumpy cats because they had no room inside. And I thought, I'm plumpy. I'd be a plumpy cat in the outdoor aviary. And it was, the staff were lovely, but the building was so run down. And she said, why don't we work on this together? And so I got going again because I did something for others outside of myself, and that got me going again.
It is your superpower, as you said before, that ability to bring that team around you and create change for the benefit of all of us.
Yeah.
So finally, Theresa, we could talk for hours, hours and hours and hours. I want to know all the advice you give, all the wisdom.
Yeah.
You as a coach, because I love those CO words, what would be your tip, especially to women and girls out there?
Well, first of all, life is a very long time. So my first burnout was because I was in a hurry. I was trying to do everything between breakfast and morning tea. I didn't have to do law full time. I could have done it part time. I could have taken a couple of years longer. But I didn't think like that. I was like, right, I'm going for this. And when you're younger, I tended to think my energy was limitless. And after my 2018 sort of burnout, I realised my energy wasn't limitless. So I put some more boundaries around saying no to things. So life is a very long time. You can achieve everything you want. You can be a CEO, you can be Prime Minister, you can have a family, but you can't do it all in the same month. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is we're all going to reinvent ourselves several times. You don't have to. You can do, when a young woman asks me what should they study at university, which they do in their 20s, I say it doesn't really matter whether you work for a good boss or a not good boss. It's like you'll learn whatever you do, because what you'll be doing at my age doesn't exist at the moment. So it's like what I said before, there's 7 ways to create anything. There's infinite possibilities. You're always in co-creation with your environment. And then finally, probably the most important, is to surround yourself with people who love you. And try not to have children with the wrong bloke, because, that can be a life sentence. But, yeah, find your tribe, and, it takes discernment. I mean, even, of course, I'm not going to mention names, but even well into my 50s, I was friends with some people that I later realised, actually, you're not a really good person. So, but at my 60th, I was sure that everybody at my party was a not just a good friend of mine, but a very good human being.
That is beautiful. And you've also said as well that some of the secret of your success is always hiring people who are better than you or can contribute something that you don't have.
Certainly different and ideally better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're amazing. And I think it's extraordinary that you just keep on finding more and more reserves of energy. It is quite inspirational or inspiring. And it's like, wow, what's going to happen next? What are you going to do? Where does this go?
Well, I don't know. I'd tell you if I knew.
No, well, that's right. Well, Theresa Gattung, you are absolutely, a wonderful pleasure to have in this podcast.
Thank you, Amanda. It's been lovely to catch up with you again.
Yeah, wonderful to talk to you. And the Gattung Foundation is doing extraordinary work, changing lives, and that must mean so much to you.
It does, yeah.
So thank you for your time today. It's been really amazing.